Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, when you read the Quran and read about the Sunnah of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, you'll find out that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us an answer to every problem we have. It doesn't mean that if you have a problem with a program, then you're going to find bits and bytes in the Quran, or you're going to find DNA, or you're going to find magnetic fields and stuff like that. No. He gives us a method how to deal with our problem, a framework how to deal with the problem that will help us find a solution for our problem. One of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed in the Quran is how we deal with disagreement, with dispute. If you have disagreement with others or dispute, how do you deal with it? At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was disagreement between the Prophet ﷺ and the people of the book, the Christian and the Jews. Some of them did not believe that he's a prophet. Some did not accept the Quran. Some did not accept the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was many differences. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the Quran, قل يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله. Say, O people of the scripture, of the book, look at the first thing that Allah is telling us. When you have a disagreement with somebody, call him with a good name. Allah didn't say, O people who are kafir, O people who don't believe, O people who disagree. No, He called them a beautiful name, people of the book. Now, it's a good start. They are willing to listen. He didn't start by something offending them, making them say, wait a minute, we're not going to listen. No, we are people of the book. Yes, we are. We're going to listen. Then He says, come to a word that is equitable between us and you. So He said, why don't we find common ground? Why are we disagreeing? We're talking about all those things that we're disagreeing. Let's agree on a few things that are acceptable to you and to us. Let's do that. Common ground. And He said, only two things that we're going to ask you that both of us we believe in. The first one, that we will not worship except Allah and not associate anything with Him. That's number one. Worship Allah. We're not going to worship anything else. We're not going to worship an idol. We're not going to worship another person. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second one, and not take one another as lords instead of Allah. What does He mean by that? He means we're not going to take an imam and the imam tells us something that's against what Allah said and we say we'll follow him. Or we take a pope, or we take a priest, or a rabbi. No. We're not going to accept except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. So we're not going to accept anything that's against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Very simple things. Those are the two things. Let's agree on them. So if you look at it, in any negotiation or disagreement, you and the other party may have different position and different view on different things. A lot of things you don't agree with. But however, you may have things that are in common between you and the other person. So do your homework. If you have a disagreement with anybody, whether it's your spouse, your children, at work, anything, do your homework. Find what is common, you have in common with the other person. And then, when you find that in common, that tactic will help you solve the problem. Because to resolve the conflict, it makes people feel positive. Hey, wait a minute, we share things. There is things that we agree on. So we're not starting as enemies. No, Allah is telling us, look for what's common between you and the other people. Then you're going to start by saying, okay, wait a minute, maybe there is something I should listen to. If we have that much in common, maybe the rest I should listen to. And solving that conflict or disagreement will be much easier if you find the common ground. When we remove the negative feelings that we disagree, I don't believe in what he's saying, and all of that, that feeling of animosity, that we are enemies, we remove that and we focus on the solution, then it's going to make it easy for you to find a common ground and to find a solution for that. Some people think I have to win. It doesn't matter at what expense. Even if the other person is going to lose all the way, what's important to me is winning. But that's not a solution. That's not going to leave everybody willing to work together. It's going to make the other person wait until one day he can take advantage of you and he can get revenge from you. And that doesn't do it. And when negotiations are done well and you find common ground, you're not pushing people apart. You're not making them enemy for the rest of their life. And definitely you're going to find solutions that are great for both sides and fair to both sides. But when we focus on the differences, like that's what Allah didn't tell the Prophet, don't look for the differences. Don't look for the things that we and the people of the book disagree on. Let's look for the things that we agree on. If you focus on the differences in any negotiation, it's going to go bad. And the results are going to create conflict, and people will hate each other. People are going to get emotional. They don't want to agree with each other. And sometimes it gets even violent. Either violent in words or violent in action. And that's not the purpose. The purpose of us as Muslims is to bring peace. We are Muslims. We bring peace. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even telling us in everything that we do, He said, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, and who conduct their affairs by mutual consultation. So Allah is saying, if there is disagreement, listen. Listen. Most of the time, we don't want to listen. We want to talk, but we don't want to listen. And Allah is saying, listen. Listen to the other person. I've seen it a lot of times in companies where you have a meeting and the boss tells everybody, this is what we're going to do. And people say nothing. He doesn't want to hear anybody. But then when things go wrong, everybody's pointing to him. Everybody doesn't want to help him. Because you don't want to even listen. Listen. Even if you don't take the person's opinion. But listen. If you listen, you're going to find the common ground. You're going to be able to get everybody to come together and achieve whatever you want. And a lot of time when we don't listen, we don't see what's below the surface. We see only a little bit. That's what we see because we're not listening. We're just watching. And that's what we call the iceberg effect or the iceberg problem. Because what happens if you read about iceberg, the part that you see from the iceberg is 10% of the iceberg. 90% is below the water. And when you're not listening, you don't know what's going on. And that's what happened to the Titanic. The captain looked at the iceberg and said, oh, small things, don't worry about it. Because he thought that this is a small thing, but 90% is below. And the Titanic sunk because he didn't pay attention. So listen, I'll tell you a story. A president of a company was trying to sell towels to Walmart. And he went to Walmart talking to the buyer. And they went through a lot of negotiation. At the end, the result was there was a disagreement on 50 cents, the price in the towel. Walmart wanted 50 cents less, and the president wanted that price. No way. I'm not going to go below that number. He was not willing to listen. And they went on and on. He didn't want to listen. Finally, the deal fell apart. And Walmart got somebody else. This company, after a while, went out of business. But if he listened to him, he would have heard the buyer telling him, we have a line of towels that we're selling that's 50% more than you. We cannot have two towels at the same price. So it has to be a lower price so I can bring it to the company. If he listened to him, he would have said to him, what about if we split the difference? Let's make it 2 1/4. What about if we make it $2, but then later on, if sales are good, then you increase my price a little bit. The $2 that they were offering him, he still was going to make a lot of money. But he didn't listen. And he was taking a firm position. He was not willing to look for common ground. My position or no. He didn't think that if you get Walmart, he will be selling millions of towels. And then you can go over to Target and sell them. Tell them, hey, I have Walmart as a customer. They're going to sign you up. Then go to Sears, then go to this. No, he was not willing to look for common ground and compromise. He went out of business. Is that a smart strategy in negotiating? When a person is able to see both sides, instead of focusing on defending his position, it is much easier to see that maybe both of them have a lot in common, and both of them can find something that's acceptable to both parties. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in addition, is telling us, whenever we do anything, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, and argue with them in the best manner, no matter what the dispute is. Don't call people names. No matter what it is, if somebody insulted you, if somebody offended you, if somebody committed injustice against you, never call other people names and never be mean with them. Argue them in the best manner. If you follow Allah's rules, He will make you successful. He will solve the disagreement. He will solve the problem that you have. But follow Allah's rules. Some people that think, I'm going to show him that I'm aggressive, I'm tough, and it doesn't result in anything. It just results in the whole thing just being falling apart even worse than before. And the Prophet ﷺ said, none of you will have faith till he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. Look for any disagreement. What would you like? If you have a disagreement with your spouse, look at what's common. What does she want? What do you want? Look for what's common for both of you and find it. Some couples, you see them on the weekend, they get into disagreement every weekend. Oh, I worked the whole week, I want to relax. But I worked the whole week as well, and we have to do shopping, we have to do this, we have to buy this, we have to clean the house, all of that. Oh, no. And every week it's a war, a disagreement. What about if we find common ground? Listen to each other. Okay, we both work hard. What about if Saturday we both clean the house, do the shopping, do everything, and Sunday both of us relax? Find common ground. It's not I worked hard, you don't work hard. Find common grounds. And the same apply between Muslims. It doesn't apply only in the family or at work or anything. It applies again, in all Muslim situation. Look at the situation of Muslims today. You hear this is Sunni, this is Salafi, this is Shia, this is Sufi, every kind of titles we have. The thing that we don't think about common ground. We all have one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all agree on that. We all agree that there is one religion, Islam. We all agree on that. We all agree there is one prophet, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. We all agree on that. We all agree that we have one book, Quran. We all agree on that. We all agree that when we make prayer, we face the direction of the Kaaba. We all agree on that. So why go through the differences and fight each other? Why? If you look at it, the only people who benefit from the division between Muslims are the non-Muslims. When we fight each other, who benefits? Nobody except the non-Muslim. So why are we doing that? And then if you think about it, if you have Sunni and Shia fighting each other, why? Okay, because 1400 years ago, the person that was supposed to follow the Prophet ﷺ and be the ruler of the Muslim, the Shia are saying it was supposed to be Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. The Sunni are saying it's supposed to be Abu Bakr and Umar the way it was. Okay, let's say Shia, you're right. What can we do? It's 1400 years ago. Are we going to be able to go back and change what happened? No. So why fight about it? Who cares? It's 1400 years ago. We have so many enemies today. Why can't we unite? Why are we fighting each other instead of supporting each other? Why can't we find common ground between all the different groups of Muslims? And we cannot understand and learn. Read the Quran. In the whole Quran, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing us, He's calling us al-Muslimun or al-Mu'minun. He's calling us either Muslims or calling us the believers. There is nowhere in the Quran He's calling us Sunni or Shia or Salafi or whatever. That it doesn't exist. So those are names we invented. They are not names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to us. So why fight with each other? Why can't we find common ground? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says, the relationship of the believer with another believer is like the bricks of a wall. Each strengthens the other. If you look at the walls of the Muslim today, the wall of the Muslim, the Sunni brick does not want to touch the Shia brick. The Shia brick does not want to touch the Sufi brick. The Sufi brick does not want to. We look like Swiss cheese full of holes. So if the wind blows at any time, the Muslim wall falls. Is that the Muslim today? Is that what the Prophet ﷺ was expecting we are going to do 1400 years later? The Muslims were one nation. We were only one nation. There was no multiple nation. Today, there is 50 Muslim majority country. Look at the world. The world is uniting. We are dividing. United States, 50 states got together. They became the most powerful and advanced nation in the world. Look at Europe. Europe now, 28 countries, they are uniting. And they're becoming stronger and stronger. Look at us. We are being divided more and more and more. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and hold fast all together to the rope of Allah and be not divided among yourselves. History repeats itself. When Muslims were in Spain, we were one nation in Spain. By the time we left Spain, we were 22 tiny kingdoms in Spain. We're so weak. Anybody, if they blow at the Muslim, they will fall apart. 22 nations killing each other. 22 tiny kingdoms. Some of them as big as one city. That's it. Killing each other. And look at where we are today. We're repeating history. Look at Sudan. Sudan, they had war between Muslim and Christian, and now Sudan is two countries. And who knows what's next? Look at Iraq. Iraq, you have Kurd fighting Sunni, fighting Shia, all fighting each other. Who knows? Are there going to be three countries? We have Syria, same thing, killing each other, different sects of Muslim, and all they're calling themselves Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ in hadith, he said, very soon different nations will invite one another against you, just as people when eating invite others to share their food. So someone asked, he was kind of shocked, how can it happen? We Muslims are strong. How can this happen? Is it possible? So he said, will we be few in number that day? So most Muslims are going to be dead, and therefore we'll be so weak so they can, invade us and do whatever they want with us? So the Prophet said, no, you will be many, but you will be like the froth and scum of the flood. You will be like the garbage that's floating on the water. Allah will take the fear of you from the hearts of your enemy and throw al-wahan in your hearts. Someone asked, O Messenger of Allah, what is al-wahan? He replied, love of the world and dislike of death. That's where we are today. Everybody in the Muslim world, we are focused on how can I be rich? How can I be powerful? Every leader in a country, how I can make sure that my power does not go away. The chair I'm sitting on does not go away. How can I take somebody else's country? How can I take somebody else's wealth? That's what we're doing now. Instead of somebody saying, how can I help the Muslim nation? Nobody is saying, how can I help the Muslim nation? Everybody is, how can I help me? And that's where we are. That's what the Prophet saw that's going to happen to us 1400 years later. Muslims cannot blame anyone but themselves for the fact that there is so much conflict and wars between Muslims in the Islamic world. The Prophet ﷺ said, all things of a Muslim are haram, forbidden, for another Muslim, his blood, his wealth, and his honor. And we're killing each other. We're invading each other's country. It's very sad. There is 3 verses in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing the non-believer. The non-believer. He's saying, بأسهم بينهم شديد تحسبهم جميعا وقلوبهم شتى ذلك بأنهم قوم لا يعقلون. Their violence among themselves is severe. You would think they were united, but their hearts are divided. That is because there are people who have no sense. The sad part is, you read this, it describes the Muslim nation now. It's very sad. Our violence with each other is very severe. Muslim nation bombing each other, sending airplanes bombing the other one, sending weapons, sending this, paying that. That's where we are. This is not supposed to be the Muslim. And at the same time, he's saying, you think they are united, but their hearts are divided. We have all of a sudden, you hear about, a conference for all Muslim countries, and the leaders come and all of that, and they talk, and they leave nothing. They don't really care about anything. It's just a good photo opportunity to get pictures, and they look good and all of that, and that's it. But they don't care about the Muslim nation. So we look united, but our hearts are divided. And then the sad part, that those people Allah is calling them, because they are people who have no sense. In other words, people who are stupid. So we got to that point. Our leaders got us to that point, where we are to the point where we are so tough with each other, we're not united, and because we're not smart. Look at one country today, Syria. Syria, it has 22 million people. 11 million of the Syrian people are refugees. 11 million. 5 million outside of Syria. They are in Turkey, in Egypt, in Jordan, in Europe, everywhere. 5 million. And 6 million are refugees inside Syria. Their towns have been bombed, their homes have been destroyed, so they're living in tents in Syria. Is that our condition? Is that how united we are? Half the country are refugee, and then you look at the rest of the Muslim nation, oh, it's not our problem. We don't care about it. What about if we can find common ground and get all those parties who are killing each other in Syria to agree and to reach common ground? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, learn that every Muslim is a brother to every Muslim. Do not go back after me, kafir. He said kafir, killing each other. So when you kill each other as Muslim, we're not Muslims. We're kafir. I'll tell you some of the statistic that's very interesting. 50% of the whole world arms sales, weapons, are sold to Muslim countries. 50% to Muslim countries. So they can use them to kill each other. 50%. Instead of finding common grounds, how we can get closer to each other and help each other to solve our problem, we're looking for ways to kill each other. So who benefit from that? We don't benefit. Because when we get into all those wars and all that destruction and all that violence, number one, we are killing each other, so we will never be united. And we will remain weak. When we're not united, we're going to remain a weak country. Number two, we are wasting the wealth of Muslims by buying things that are not productive. When you buy a bomb, it's worthless. When you buy a gun, it's worthless. But if you buy a factory, it's going to produce things and it's going to bring more wealth to the Muslim country. But we're spending our money on things that are non-productive, worthless. And number three, we are destroying our countries, which means that when we're ready, we are done with the war, then we're going to spend more money to build our countries. So we waste more of the Muslim wealth to build the country. Just to give you an example, it was written a couple of days ago. One city in Iraq, it's called Mosul. Mosul has been destroyed completely. They're estimating to build Mosul back to where it was. It will need $100 billion. That's one city. Look at the rest of Iraq. Look at Syria that has been completely destroyed. Look at all the different places. How much wealth of the Muslim nation is going to disappear? Muslims, with their own doing, are getting poorer, and the world is getting richer. And some Muslim leaders justify those wars by lying to their people and saying, the war is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if anybody dies in that war, he's going to be a martyr. He's a shaheed. He's going to be a martyr. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that they are liars, because He says, وَمَنْ يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمُ خَالِدًا فِيهَا وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَلَعَنَهُ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا. Whoever kills a believer intentionally, his reward is hell forever. The anger and the curse of Allah shall be upon him, and a great punishment is prepared for him. So Allah didn't say he's going to be a martyr. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if two Muslims meet and fight with their swords, and one of them kills the other, the killer and the slain, the one who was killed, will both be in hellfire. So a man said, O Messenger of Allah, we understand about the killer, but what about the one who is killed? He said he wanted to kill his companion. So he had the same intention. All it is that the other one killed him first. But he wanted to kill him as well. So both of them are in hellfire. Allah is telling us what we should do as Muslims. He said, وَإِن طَائِفَتَيْن مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. And if two parties of the believers quarrel, fight, make peace between them, find common grounds, and get them together. Don't let them kill each other. Find common ground. And Allah is describing the real believer. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. And the believing men and the believing women are protector of each other. He didn't say are the killers of each other. He didn't say are the one causing suffering for each other. No, protect each other. Brothers and sisters, you can make a difference in all dispute, particularly between Muslims. Try to get people close to each other. Look for common grounds. Don't fuel the fire. Leave political and religious conflicts where they belong, overseas. Don't bring problem from overseas here to our country in the United States. Leave them where they are. We don't need them here. Speak up against people who are trying to divide us. Masjid, let's make sure masjid are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for Muslims. All the time I hear in the Bay Area, this masjid is for Sunni, this masjid is for Shia, this masjid is Sufi, this masjid is Fiji. We want Muslim masjid. We don't want sectarian masjid, Muslim masjid. And if you are going to have event or talks, let's have common ground. Let's have the talk in English. We have a lot of events that are happening, but in a different language that people cannot understand, so they are not invited. How we are going to bring people close to each other? If the speaker does not know English, have somebody translate. But that's how we're going to get each other close to each other. Talk and spend time with people from other sects, from other nationality, so we can get close to each other. Let's find common ground with each other. We complain here in America of Islamophobia. We say that non-Muslims have fear from Muslims. But we Muslims, we have a phobia. We have Muslims who are afraid of people from other sects. We have Muslims who are afraid of people from other countries. Let's deal with our phobia before we ask people to deal with their phobia. Let's fix our phobia. America is our country. Muslim, if they find common ground and unite, we're going to be respected. We are going to be listened to. And we will have influence on all policies and decisions that are made in our country here. Brothers and sisters, make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us find common ground with each other and brings harmony, peace, and unity among Muslims.